Let me ask you something honest. The last time you and your partner talked about money, did it go well? If your answer was kind of, you're in the majority. But there's a small group of couples who discovered a secret that completely changes that dynamic. And once you understand what they do differently, money will never again be the thing that pulls the two of you apart. Let me tell you something nobody talks about openly. Money doesn't destroy relationships. The lack of conversation about money is what destroys them. Think about it for a second. You grew up in a home with a certain relationship with money. Maybe your family talked openly about bills, about saving, about the future. Or maybe money was a forbidden subject, the kind of thing adults discussed in low voices, away from the kids. Now think about your partner. They grew up in a completely different home, with different rules, different fears, different values about what to do with money. And then the two of you fall in love, build a life together. And suddenly, two completely different financial histories need to function inside the same home. This isn't weakness. It isn't incompatibility. It's simply the collision of two worlds that were never properly introduced to each other. One of you wakes up in the middle of the night worried about the account balance. The other doesn't even know exactly how much is saved. One wants to invest. The other wants to enjoy life now, because life is short and tomorrow is never guaranteed. One keeps every receipt. The other can't even remember where they put their card. Neither of you is wrong. You just never learned to speak the same financial language. And when that never gets resolved, every conversation about money becomes a minefield. It doesn't matter the amount. It doesn't matter the reason. A $47 grocery bill can turn into an argument that lasts 3 days. Because deep down, it was never really about the money. It was about control, about trust, about the future one of you wants and the other hasn't yet found the words to express. That is the root of the problem. And that's exactly why the solution isn't a budget. It isn't an app. It isn't a spreadsheet. It's something far simpler and far more powerful. But before we get there, we need to talk about the mistake almost every couple makes, the one that keeps you locked in this cycle. Now that you understand the root of the problem, let me show you the mistake that keeps most couples stuck in this cycle. And you'll probably recognize yourself here. Most couples manage money like two individuals sharing an account, instead of two people building a life together. Here's how it works. Each person has their own expenses, their own priorities. They split the rent, split the bills, maybe split the groceries. But when it comes to the big picture, the dreams, the goals, the future, each one is still living inside their own financial bubble. I call this the financial roommate model. You share the space, you share the expenses, but you don't share the vision. And without a shared vision, any financial decision can turn into a conflict. He buys something without mentioning it. She makes a transfer the other didn't expect. One decides to save more this month. The other had already planned a special dinner. Nobody acted in bad faith, but because there's no joint plan, every individual decision feels like a threat to the other. And here's the cruelest part of this mistake. The more a couple avoids this conversation to keep the peace, the further they get from actually building something together. Silence doesn't protect the relationship. Silence only delays the conflict and increases the damage. The couples who break this pattern aren't smarter. They don't earn more. They didn't get lucky. They simply stopped acting like two individuals and started functioning as one team. And that shift begins with one very specific decision, one that most couples have never consciously made. Let me show you something that will change the way you see financially successful couples. When most people look at a thriving couple, they assume there was some kind of advantage, an inheritance, a high salary, the right business at the right time. But when you look closely at the story behind most of these couples, you discover that their advantage wasn't financial. It was behavioral. The research is clear on this. Couples who talk openly about money at least once a week are 3 times more likely to reach their financial goals than couples who avoid the subject. 3 times. Not the salary, not the luck. The conversation. But here's the detail that makes all the difference. The one that separates couples who try to talk about money from couples who actually thrive together. It's not just any conversation. Thriving couples don't sit down together to discuss bills. They sit down together to build a future. There's an enormous difference between those two things. When you sit down to discuss bills, the focus is the problem. What was missing? What went wrong? Who spent what? The energy is heavy. The conversation is draining. And nobody walks away motivated. When you sit down to build a future, the focus is the direction, where you're going, what you're building together. The energy is completely different. It's the difference between putting out a fire and planting a tree. Thriving couples turned this conversation into a practice, a simple, consistent weekly ritual. No drama, no judgment, no feeling that someone is going to walk away blamed. And this ritual has a name and a specific format that any couple can follow, regardless of how much they earn today. That's exactly what you're going to discover in the next part. We've arrived at the heart of this video, and I need to be honest with you before I reveal this rule. When you hear what it is, your first reaction will probably be, "That's it? It sounds too simple." And that's exactly the reaction that makes most couples dismiss it and stay stuck in the same cycle for years. So before I reveal it, I need you to agree on something. Simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity executed with consistency is the most powerful thing that exists. Deal? Let's go. The rule is this. Every thriving couple treats their home like a business and holds a weekly prosperity meeting. 20 minutes, once a week, without fail. This is not a crisis meeting. It's not that heavy conversation everyone wants to avoid. It's a ritual. Light, structured, and with a clear purpose. And it has exactly 3 parts. Part 1. The check-in. This is where you look at the numbers together, without judgment. How much came in this week? How much went out? Where you stand on your savings goals. No blame, no drama, just facts. You know how long this takes? 10 minutes. This isn't a board meeting. It's a morning coffee with financial context. The secret of the check-in isn't the spreadsheet, it's the tone. You're not investigating each other. You're looking at the numbers like 2 partners who want the business to thrive. Part 2. The compass. This is the part most couples skip, and that's exactly why they give up. This is where you reconnect with your shared dream. Every couple has a vision, something they're building together, whether it's getting out of debt, buying a house, traveling with the kids, retiring early, or simply never losing sleep over money again. The compass is the moment you remind each other why you're doing all of this. 5 minutes. One talks, the other listens. Then you switch. Sounds too simple to make a difference? Research shows that couples who reconnect with their goals weekly have far greater financial consistency than those who only look at numbers. Because numbers without purpose are just math, and math doesn't motivate anyone at 6 in the morning on a Monday. Part 3. The decision. This is where you make one single financial decision for the week. 1. Just 1. Maybe it's canceling a subscription nobody uses anymore. Maybe it's transferring $200 to your emergency fund. Maybe it's finally opening that investment account you've been putting off for 6 months. One decision, made together, executed as a team. No pressure, no endless financial to-do list. Just one step, every week, without exception. And do you know what happens when a couple does this for 4 weeks straight? They stop fighting about money. And when they do it for 4 months, they start seeing results they never thought possible. That is the prosperity meeting. 20 minutes a week, the rule that changed everything for the couple you're about to meet. Let me introduce you to Marcus and Sarah. Those aren't their real names, but the story is real. Marcus and Sarah were in their early 30s when they reached their breaking point. Not with their marriage, with their finances. 2 incomes, 1 rented apartment, and $28,000 in credit card debt that kept growing. Not because they were irresponsible, but because each of them managed money their own way, without talking, without planning, without a shared direction. Marcus was the type who avoided looking at the numbers. Not out of laziness, but because the numbers made him feel anxious and incompetent. So he simply didn't look. Sarah was the opposite. She checked the balance every morning, kept every receipt, knew exactly how much they had saved. And for exactly that reason, she grew more and more frustrated with Marcus.
You can already imagine how their money conversations ended, can't you? The breaking point came on a Friday night. Sarah opened the credit card statement and saw a $47 charge at the grocery store, one that Marcus had made without mentioning it. $47 on items that weren't even unnecessary. But that $47 carried the weight of months of silence, accumulated frustration, and unspoken dreams. The argument that followed was the worst they had ever had. And the next morning, with a clearer head, Sarah did something different. Instead of continuing the argument, she picked up a notebook and wrote down everything they had fought about money over the past 6 months. And she noticed something that changed everything. They never fought because they wanted different things. They fought because they had never agreed on how to get to the same things together. Both wanted to get out of debt. Both wanted to buy a house. Both wanted a life with less financial pressure. The problem was never the destination. It was the lack of a map. That's when they decided to try the prosperity meeting. Every Sunday evening, after dinner, 20 minutes. The first few weeks felt awkward. Marcus was uncomfortable with the numbers, so Sarah took the check-in. Sarah found it hard to talk about dreams without turning it into excessive planning, so Marcus took the compass. The decision they always made together. By the 3rd month, the arguments about money had practically disappeared. Not because they had more money, not yet, but because they were finally playing on the same team. By the 8th month, they had paid off $11,000 of their debt. By the 2nd year, they bought their first home. By the 5th year, with their incomes growing and their habits locked in, the couple's combined net worth had crossed $400,000. No inheritance, no viral business, no miraculous financial secret, just the meeting every Sunday, without fail. And do you know the last time they fought about money? They can't remember. Now we've reached the most important part of this video, because information without action changes nothing. And I don't want you to finish this video feeling inspired and then do nothing. It's happened before, hasn't it? With other videos, other podcasts, other books. The motivation lasts about 3 days, and life stays exactly the same. So let's do things differently. Here is exactly how you start your first prosperity meeting this week. Step 1. Choose the day and time, right now, not later, right now. Think about your week and pick a fixed day. Sunday evening works really well for most couples because it sets you up for the week ahead. But it can be any day. What matters is that it's always the same day, same time, every week. Treat it like an appointment that cannot be canceled, because that's exactly what it is. Step 2. Define your roles. Remember Marcus and Sarah? Don't try to do everything together at the same time. Each person takes ownership of one part of the meeting. One handles the check-in, the numbers. The other handles the compass, the dreams and goals. The decision you always make together. This prevents one person from carrying all the financial weight and the other from feeling excluded or pressured. Step 3. Start small. Your first meeting doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need an elaborate spreadsheet. You don't need a special app. It just needs to happen. Look at last month's statement together. Talk about one goal you want to reach. Make one small but real decision. Small and consistent beats big and occasional every single time. Step 4. Establish the golden rule. This is the rule inside the rule. During the prosperity meeting, nobody blames anybody. If one of you spent more than planned this week, the meeting is not the courtroom, it's the laboratory. You analyze, understand, and decide the next step together. No judgment, no sarcasm, no "I told you so." This golden rule is what turns the meeting into a safe space, and what makes couples want to keep showing up week after week. Step 5. Celebrate the wins. This sounds small. It isn't. Every time you complete a meeting, celebrate. It doesn't need to be anything grand. It can be a toast with your coffee, a hug, a word of recognition. We are building something together, and that matters. Because prosperity isn't just the destination, it's also who you are becoming along the way. And if you want to skip the blank page and start your very first prosperity meeting tonight, we created something special for you. The link is in the description. Go check it out.
Before we finish, I need to warn you about 3 mistakes that make couples give up on the prosperity meeting before they see any results. Because knowing the rule isn't enough. You need to know what's going to try to pull you away from it. Mistake 1. Skipping a week. It sounds harmless. It isn't. 1 week becomes 2. 2 becomes a month. And suddenly you're back to square one. No meeting, no direction, and the old arguments slowly creeping back in. Consistency is the product, not what you decide in the meeting, but the fact that you show up every single week. If 1 week feels impossible, do it in 15 minutes. If you're traveling, do it over the phone, but show up, always. Mistake 2. Turning the meeting into an argument. If either of you arrives at the meeting on the defensive, the meeting has already lost its purpose. Remember the golden rule? The meeting is a laboratory, not a courtroom. If you feel the tension rising, pause, breathe. Remember why you're there. You are partners, not opponents. Mistake 3. Expecting fast results. This is the most common and most cruel mistake of all. Couples have 2 or 3 meetings, don't see their balance explode, and conclude that it doesn't work. But prosperity is not an event, it's a process. Marcus and Sarah took 3 months to stop fighting, 8 months to pay off $11,000, 5 years to cross $400,000. The meeting isn't a shortcut, it's the road. And every great road begins with a single first step. Your first step is this week. You made it to the end, and that already says a lot about you. Most people watch videos about money and keep doing exactly what they've always done, but you're not most people. You're here because you want to build something real, with your partner, for your family, for your future. So here's your challenge. This week, not tomorrow, not next week, this week, look at your partner and say, let's try our first prosperity meeting. 20 minutes, 1 fixed day. The 3 steps you learned today, that's how it starts. Not with a big plan, not with a full bank account, with a conversation, with a decision, with a team. If this video resonated with you, share it with your partner right now. Send it in a text, send it in a DM, put it on in the living room. And if you want to keep building a thriving home with us, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Every week, we bring you new content on money, family, mindset, and purpose. Because prosperity isn't a destination, it's the home you choose to build every single day. See you in the next one.